A pregnant, divorced mother renovates her old house with her children to start a new life, and what they find inside. I never wanted that satisfying baby, Sarah. You're on your own. Stop calling me. Brandon's voice cut through the phone like a blade, and then the line went dead. Sarah Mitchell stood frozen in the February rain, 5 months pregnant, divorce papers crumpled in her purse, staring at a house that looked like it had given up on life years ago. Her 15-year-old daughter sat in the car refusing to move. Her 11-year-old son had tears cutting rivers down his cheeks. And somewhere inside her, a baby kicked against her ribs, as if asking what kind of world its mother had brought them into. Before we continue, subscribe to this channel and follow this story until the very end. Drop a comment telling me which city you're watching from. I want to see how far this journey takes us. Sarah dialed Brandon's number again. Her fingers were shaking so badly she almost dropped the phone. What did I just say? Brandon answered on the first ring, his voice dripping with irritation. You can't do this. You can't just abandon your own child. Watch me. Brandon, please. I'm not asking for us. I'm asking for this baby. Your baby. He laughed. Actually laughed. My baby. How do I even know it's mine? You probably got yourself knocked up by someone else just to trap me. Sarah felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. How can you say that? 17 years, Brandon. 17 years I gave you everything. And I'm done. Kristen and I are starting fresh. Clean slate, no baggage. That includes whatever's growing inside you. Whatever's growing inside me is your daughter or son. Not anymore, it isn't. Lose this number, Sarah. I mean it. The line went dead again. Sarah stood there in the pouring rain, her hand pressed against her belly, feeling her baby move inside her. This child would never know its father. This child would grow up being called a mistake, baggage, something to be discarded. Mom. Lucas's small voice broke through her spiral. Mom, you're getting really wet. Sarah looked down at her son. 11 years old, trying so hard to be brave. His eyes were red from crying, but he was standing beside her with an umbrella he'd found somewhere, holding it over her head instead of his own. Thank you, sweetheart. Sarah's voice cracked. Is Dad coming to help us? Sarah swallowed hard. No, honey, Dad's not coming. Ever. She couldn't answer that. She just pulled Lucas close and held him. From inside the car, Emma's voice cut through the rain. Can we get this over with? I'm not sitting in this car forever. Sarah wiped her face, straightened her spine, and walked toward the house that was supposed to save them. Every step felt heavier than the last. The porch groaned under her weight. The front door stuck so badly, she had to slam her shoulder against it 3 times before it opened. The smell hit her first. Rot. Mold. Something dead in the walls. The real estate photos had been lies. Strategic angles and careful lighting hiding decades of neglect. Oh my God. Emma had followed her inside. Oh my God, Mom. This is where you spent our entire future. It needs work. It needs a wrecking ball. Emma spun around, taking in the water-stained ceiling, the warped floors, the wallpaper peeling off in sheets. There's literally a hole in the floor over there. I can see the basement. We'll fix it. With what Dad said, you have nothing left. He said you blew everything on this dump because you were too proud to admit you couldn't make it on your own. Sarah felt the words like knife wounds. Your father says a lot of things. Yeah, well, at least his apartment has working electricity. Emma stormed toward the stairs. I'm finding a room. If the floor doesn't collapse and kill me first. Emma, the stairs might not be safe. I don't care. Emma was halfway up when her foot went straight through a rotted step. She screamed. Her leg disappeared up to her knee in splintered wood. Emma? Sarah rushed forward, heart pounding. Don't move! Don't move, baby! Get me out! Mom, get me out! Sarah grabbed her daughter under the arms and pulled. The wood groaned and cracked. Emma screamed again as splinters tore through her jeans. Lucas, help me! Lucas ran over and grabbed his sister's arm. Together they pulled Emma free. She collapsed against Sarah, sobbing blood seeping through her torn jeans. "Let me see." Sarah pushed up the denim. The cuts were shallow, but numerous. It's okay, you're okay. This house tried to eat me." Emma was crying in earnest now, all her teenage anger dissolved into raw fear. "Mom, this house literally tried to kill me. It's just old wood. We'll fix the stairs." "We can't fix anything. Don't you understand? We have nothing. We are nothing." Emma pulled away from Sarah and limped toward the parlor. "Dad was right. You're going to fail. You're going to fail, and we're all going to suffer for it." She disappeared through a doorway, and Sarah heard her collapse onto something crying. Lucas stood beside his mother, his small hand finding hers. "She didn't mean it." "I know." "Do you think she's right that we're going to fail?" Sarah looked at her son, this boy who had been so strong through the divorce, through the move, through watching his father walk away. He deserved honesty. "I don't know, Lucas, but I'm going to try my hardest to make sure we don't." That first night they huddled together in the parlor, the only room without major water damage. Sarah had laid out sleeping bags in a row and set up a camp stove for heat since the furnace was dead. Rain hammered the roof. Water dripped through at least 4 different spots, plinking into pots and pans she'd scattered across the floor. "This is like camping," Lucas said, trying to find something positive. Emma said nothing. She lay in her sleeping bag facing the wall, her bandaged legs stretched out, her silence louder than any words. Sarah handed out cold sandwiches. "Tomorrow will be better. I'll find a contractor, get the most dangerous things fixed first." "With what money?" Emma asked without turning around. "I have savings." "How much?" Sarah hesitated. "Enough." "How much, Mom?" $12,000. Emma finally rolled over. Her face was puffy from crying, her eyes red and swollen. 12,000? The roof alone probably costs more than that, and the floors, and the plumbing, and the electricity that doesn't work. She sat up. "Dad said this house needed at least 100,000 in repairs. He laughed about it. He said you were delusional." "Your father doesn't know everything. He knew enough to keep the good house." Sarah flinched. "The judge gave him that house, Emma. I didn't choose to leave it." "You chose to leave him. He cheated on me." The words exploded out of Sarah before she could stop them. "For 2 years, with a woman half his age, in our bed, in our home, while I was cooking his dinner and washing his clothes and raising his children. He cheated on me, and when I found out, he blamed me for it." The parlor went silent, except for the rain. Lucas had stopped eating. Emma stared at her mother with wide eyes. "I didn't choose to blow up our family," Sarah continued, her voice shaking. "I didn't choose to be pregnant at 38 with a man who wants nothing to do with his own child. I didn't choose to spend my divorce settlement on a falling apart house in the middle of Vermont. I chose to survive. That's all I chose. And I'm sorry it's not good enough for you. I'm sorry I'm not good enough, but I am doing the best I can." Tears were streaming down her face now. She turned away, embarrassed, ashamed, exhausted. A moment passed, then another. Then Emma's voice, small and uncertain. "He really cheated. For 2 years. Sarah nodded without turning around. "Dad told me you just stopped loving him. He said you pushed him away." "I know what he told you." "Was any of it true?" Sarah finally looked at her daughter. "I worked 60 hours a week to help pay for that house. I made dinner every night. I went to every one of your school events, every soccer game, every parent-teacher conference. I held your father when he lost his job 5 years ago. I supported him when he wanted to change careers. I loved him, Emma. I loved him so much, I didn't see what was right in front of my face." Emma's lip trembled. "I'm sorry. Mom, I didn't know. He told me it was your fault. He told you what he needed you to believe." The wall between them cracked. Not fully, not completely, but Emma moved her sleeping bag closer to Sarah's, and when she lay down, she reached out and took her mother's hand. "I don't actually hate you," Emma whispered. "I know, baby. I'm just scared. Me too. Lucas scooted his sleeping bag over to join them. Can we be scared together? It feels less scary that way. Sarah pulled both her children close, her pregnant belly pressed between them, and for the first time in months, she felt something other than despair. Around 2 in the morning, Sarah woke to the sound of something scratching in the walls. She lay still, listening. The rain had stopped, but the house creaked and groaned like a living thing settling into sleep. She couldn't fall back asleep. Her mind raced with numbers, calculations, impossible odds. $12,000. A baby coming in 4 months. 2 children who needed stability. A house that might literally collapse around them. She got up carefully, trying not to wake Emma and Lucas, and walked through the dark house with her phone's flashlight. Maybe there was something here worth selling. Antiques, original hardware, vintage fixtures. She made her way through the first floor, finding nothing but decay and disappointment. Then she remembered the basement door Lucas had mentioned. He'd said it was stuck. She found it in a small hallway off the kitchen. The door was swollen with moisture, but she put her shoulder into it and managed to force it open. The stairs were narrow and steep. Sarah descended carefully, one hand on her belly, the other holding her phone. The basement was a disaster. Boxes everywhere. Broken furniture. The smell of mold so strong it made her gag. She was about to give up when her flashlight beam caught something behind the ancient furnace. A metal box tucked into a corner, half hidden by shadows. It looked deliberately placed. Sarah's heart beat faster as she retrieved it. The box was about the size of a shoebox covered in decades of dust. It had a small padlock, but the lock was old and weak. She found a piece of broken metal on the floor and pried it open. Inside, a bundle of letters tied with faded blue ribbon, a stack of photographs from the 1940s, and a leather journal with a pressed flower between its pages. Sarah opened the journal to the first page. To whoever finds this, the house holds secrets. Not all of them are ready to be discovered, but the one who needs healing will know when to look. Eleanor Hawkins, 1952. Sarah's hands trembled as she turned the pages. The journal was filled with entries spanning decades, but it was the early entries that made her breath stop. June 15, 1945. Thomas left for the war, and he never came back. Not because he died, but because he chose not to. He promised me forever, and gave me nothing but this child growing inside me, and the shame of being alone. Mother says I must go away. Have the baby in secret. Give it to a family who can raise it properly. I am 19 years old, and I am being erased. Sarah felt tears sliding down her cheeks. September 3, 1945. She was born yesterday. A girl. They let me hold her for 1 hour before they took her away. I named her Catherine in my heart, though they said she would be given a new name. I tried to memorize her face. 10 fingers, 10 toes. A cry that sounded like music. She will never know I existed, but I will never forget she does. Sarah sat down heavily on an old crate, the journal shaking in her hands. Here was Eleanor, the woman who had been her grandmother's best friend, pregnant and abandoned in 1945. 19 years old. Alone. Terrified. Forced to give up her baby because the world said she had no other choice. And here was Sarah, pregnant and abandoned in 2024. 38 years old. Alone. Terrified. Fighting to keep her children because the world still found ways to punish women for the failures of men. She read on, unable to stop. Entry after entry. Years of hidden grief. A marriage to a kind man named Arthur who knew about the baby and loved Eleanor anyway. Decades of wondering what had become of Catherine. And then in 1995, a miracle. October 22nd, 1995. She found me. My Catherine found me. 50 years I waited, and she walked through my door and called me Mom. She said she never stopped looking. She said her adoptive parents told her about me, told her I was brave, told her I loved her. And it was true. It was all true. 50 years of grief, and she forgave me in an instant." Sarah was sobbing now, openly, desperately, feeling Eleanor's pain across the decades. Catherine and Eleanor had 10 precious years together before Catherine died of cancer in 2005. The later entries were filled with grief, but also gratitude. Eleanor wrote about Catherine's children and grandchildren, about how her family had expanded beyond anything she had ever dared to hope. Then Sarah found a loose page tucked into the back of the journal. Different handwriting. A date, 2003. "Mom, I finally found them. The grandchildren of your grandmother's best friend. The Mitchells. The little girl you used to babysit, Margaret Mitchell. She grew up and had children of her own. Her daughter Mary married a man named Robert, and they had a baby girl named Sarah in 1986. Our families are connected, Mom. They always have been. Maybe someday they'll find their way back to this house." Sarah read the words 5 times before they registered. Margaret Mitchell was her grandmother. Mary was her mother. Sarah was the baby born in 1986. Eleanor had known about her. Through Catherine, Eleanor had been watching Sarah's family across the decades. This house left empty for years, refusing to sell. Waiting for an owner had been waiting for her. Sarah hadn't found this house. The house had found her. She stayed in the basement until dawn began to lighten the darkness. When she finally climbed back upstairs, clutching the journal like a lifeline, Emma was sitting up in her sleeping bag watching. "Where were you?" "The basement." Sarah sat down across from her daughter. "I found something." "What kind of something?" Sarah handed her the journal. "Start from the beginning. Read the first few pages, and the loose page in the back." Emma took the journal with suspicion, but as she read, her expression changed. The hardness melted. Her lips parted. When she reached the page with their families' names, she looked up at Sarah with something Sarah hadn't seen in months. "This is real. Eleanor knew about our family." "She did. And she left this here on purpose." "That's what it seems." Emma looked at the journal again, then at the house around them, then at her mother. "She was pregnant and alone, like you." "Yes. And everyone told her she couldn't do it, that she had to give up her baby." "Yes. But she never forgot. She never stopped loving her daughter, even after 50 years. "No, she never did." Emma was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different, softer, more vulnerable than Sarah had heard in over a year. "You're not going to give up this baby, right, because of what Dad said, because of how hard things are. You're keeping it right." Sarah felt her heart crack open. She hadn't realized Emma was carrying this fear. She reached for her daughter's hand. "I'm keeping this baby. We're a family. You, me, Lucas, and this little one. Nothing changes that. Not your father. Not this house. Not how hard things get." Emma's eyes filled with tears. She didn't try to hide this time. "Okay, good. Because I know I said terrible things, but I didn't mean... I don't actually want..." "I know, sweetheart. I know." Emma moved closer and let Sarah hold her. Really hold her for the first time since the divorce. Lucas woke up to find them sitting together. His face broke into a grin. "Does this mean we're okay?" "We're getting there," Sarah said. "Good. Because I found something cool last night and I want to show you." Lucas led them to a small closet under the stairs. He'd discovered it while exploring before bed. Inside, pushed against the back wall, was another box. Smaller than the one Sarah had found, made of carved wood with initials on the lid. E.H. "I didn't open it," Lucas said. "I thought we should do it together." Sarah lifted the lid. Inside were more photographs. A woman in a white dress standing in front of this very house. A baby in a christening gown. 2 women arm in arm in a garden laughing. Sarah recognized one of them from old family photos. Her grandmother Margaret, young and beautiful, maybe 20 years old. "That's Grandma," Emma said, looking over Sarah's shoulder. "Isn't it?" "Yes. And the other woman must be Eleanor." There was writing on the back of the photograph. Margaret and Eleanor best friends forever. Summer 1963. Beneath the photographs was a sealed envelope. Sarah's name was written on the front in elegant old-fashioned script. "How is that possible?" Emma whispered. "How does it have your name?" Sarah's hands shook as she opened the envelope. "My dearest Sarah," the letter began. "If you're reading this, the house has finally found you. I've been waiting, or rather, the house has been waiting. I left this letter in 2018, a year before I passed into whatever comes next. Your grandmother Margaret was my dearest friend for 63 years. She told me about you, about your strength, about your stubborn heart that refuses to quit. She always said you'd need a place to land someday, somewhere soft to fall when life got too hard. I hope this house can be that place. It has good bones, even if everything else has fallen apart. Rather like people, I suppose. The bones hold us up even when everything else fails. Find the other secrets, Sarah. The house will show you when you're ready. And remember, broken doesn't mean beyond repair. Not for houses, not for hearts. All my love across the years, Eleanor." Sarah sat down right there on the dusty floor, letter in hand, tears streaming down her face. "Mom?" Lucas knelt beside her. "Mom, are you okay?" "She knew," Sarah whispered. "All these years, she knew I would come." "That's kind of creepy," Emma said, but her voice held wonder, not judgment. "It's kind of miraculous." Sarah looked around the ruined house with new eyes. The water stains, the rotted wood, the peeling wallpaper, all of it waiting, all of it ready to be transformed. "We're going to fix this house," she said. "All of it. Every broken piece." "With $12,000, Emma asked, but there was hope in her voice now instead of criticism. "With whatever it takes." Sarah's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. A voicemail from an unknown Vermont number. She pressed play, and an elderly woman's voice filled the room. "Hello, this message is for Sarah Mitchell. My name is Dorothy Hawkins. I'm Eleanor's niece. I understand you've purchased my aunt's house and I believe we need to talk." Eleanor left very specific instructions about what should happen if the house ever sold to someone connected to the Mitchell family. "There are things you need to know. Things she wanted me to tell you in person. Please call me back as soon as you can. The house chose you, my dear. Now we need to make sure you're ready for what that means." The message ended. Sarah looked at Emma. Emma looked at Lucas. Lucas looked at the letter still clutched in Sarah's hand. "What does she mean?" Lucas asked. "Ready for what?" Before Sarah could answer, her phone buzzed again. A text message this time. From Brandon. "I know about the house. I know where you are. This isn't over, Sarah. I'm not letting you take my kids to some shack in the middle of nowhere. My lawyer says I have grounds for emergency custody. Vermont Child Services will be getting a call about the conditions you're keeping my children in. Enjoy playing house while you can. I'm coming for them." Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. "What is it?" Emma grabbed for the phone. She read the message. Her expression hardened into something cold and fierce. "He can't do that, can he?" "I don't know." "Mom, he can't just take us. We live with you. The court said we live with you." "He can file a motion. If he convinces a judge we're living in unsafe conditions, then we make them safe." Emma's voice was steel. "We fix whatever needs to be fixed. We make this house so perfect no judge would ever question it. With $12,000. With whatever it takes. Isn't that what you just said?" Sarah looked at her daughter, seeing her clearly for the first time in months. Not the angry teenager who blamed her for everything. A young woman ready to fight for her family. "You're right." Sarah stood up, her hand finding her belly, feeling her baby move. "We need a plan, a real one. Budget, timeline, priorities." "And we need to call that Dorothy woman," Lucas added. "She said Eleanor left instructions. Maybe there's something that can help." Sarah nodded. "First, let me deal with your father." She typed a response to Brandon's text. Do your worst. I'm not running anymore. She hit send. Then she dialed Dorothy Hawkins' number. The phone rang 3 times before the elderly woman answered. Mrs. Hawkins, this is Sarah Mitchell. I just got your message. Oh, my dear. Dorothy's voice was warm and welcoming. I've been hoping you'd call. When can you come see me? There's so much to tell you. So much Eleanor wanted you to know. Is today too soon? Things are complicated. Today is perfect. I live on Maple Street, the yellow house with the blue door. You can't miss it. And Sarah. Yes? Don't be afraid of what's coming. Eleanor always said the house knows what it's doing. It brought you here for a reason. Trust that. Sarah hung up and looked at her children. Get dressed. We're going to meet someone who might have answers. What about the house? Lucas asked. Shouldn't we stay and clean up? The house has waited this long. It can wait a few more hours. Sarah grabbed Eleanor's journal and the letter, tucking them safely in her bag. Whatever secrets this house still held, whatever storms were coming from Brandon, whatever impossible odds they faced, one thing had changed since yesterday. She wasn't alone anymore. She had her children. She had Eleanor's words echoing across decades. She had a mystery waiting to unfold, and she had a house with good bones ready to rise again, just like her. Dorothy Hawkins lived exactly where she said she would, and when Sarah pulled up with both children in the car, the elderly woman was already standing on her porch waiting for them. She was small and silver-haired, with eyes that held decades of secrets and a smile that felt like coming home. You look just like Margaret, Dorothy said before Sarah could even introduce herself. Same stubborn chin, same fire in your eyes. I'd know you anywhere. Sarah felt her throat tighten. You knew my grandmother. Knew her child. I grew up watching her and Eleanor get into trouble together. Those two were thick as thieves from the day they met until the day your grandmother passed. Dorothy reached out and took Sarah's hands in her own. Eleanor cried for a week when Margaret died, said she'd lost her other half, but she always believed you'd come back to Willowbrook someday. She used to say it like a prayer. Emma and Lucas hung back near the car, uncertain. Dorothy noticed them immediately. And these must be the grandchildren Eleanor never got to meet. Come here, both of you. Let me see you properly. Emma approached reluctantly. Lucas followed with more curiosity than caution. Dorothy studied them each in turn. You have your mother's strength, she told Emma. I can see it in your jaw. You're angry right now, but that anger will turn into something powerful if you let it. She turned to Lucas. And you have your great-grandmother's kindness. Margaret was always the first to help anyone in need. I see that same light in you. Lucas beamed. Emma looked away, but Sarah caught the slight softening around her daughter's eyes. Come inside, Dorothy said. We have much to discuss, and I'm not as young as I used to be. Standing makes my knees complain. They followed her into a small, warm house that smelled of lavender and old books. Dorothy settled into a worn armchair and gestured for them to sit on the couch across from her. I suppose you found the journal by now, Dorothy began. And the letter. How did you know? Because Eleanor told me exactly where she hid them. She planned everything, Sarah, every detail. She knew the house would sit empty after she passed. Her children from her marriage didn't want it. Too many memories, they said. Too much work. But Eleanor refused to let it be torn down. She put a clause in her will that it couldn't be sold until the right buyer came along. The right buyer? Someone connected to the Mitchell family, someone who needed what the house could give. Dorothy leaned forward. Do you know why Eleanor and Margaret became friends in the first place? Sarah shook her head. Because Margaret was the only person in this town who didn't judge Eleanor for what happened in 1945. Everyone else whispered behind her back, called her terrible names, treated her like she'd committed some unforgivable sin. But Margaret defended her, stood up to anyone who said a cruel word. She was 17 years old, and she marched right up to Eleanor's mother and said, Your daughter is the bravest person I know. She deserves better than this town's small-minded gossip." Sarah felt tears threatening. That sounded exactly like the grandmother she remembered. "They were bonded after that," Dorothy continued. "Sisters in everything but blood. And when Margaret had her own children, Eleanor loved them like her own. When you were born, Sarah Eleanor cried with joy. She said it felt like Margaret's legacy continuing, like hope being passed down through generations. But I never met her. I don't remember her at all." "You were too young. Your family moved to Boston when you were 2. Life got busy. Distances grew. But Eleanor never stopped following your story. Through your mother's Christmas cards, through Margaret's letters, before she passed through the occasional update from mutual friends. She watched you grow up from afar. That's why she left the house for me. She left the house for whoever in the Mitchell family needed it most. She trusted the timing would work out." Dorothy reached into a basket beside her chair and pulled out a thick envelope. She also left this: instructions for the renovation. She knew the house would need work by the time anyone came for it. She wanted to help. Sarah took the envelope with trembling hands. Inside were detailed notes in Eleanor's elegant handwriting. Which contractors to trust, which materials to use, which parts of the house had the strongest bones. And at the bottom, a name circled 3 times: Marcus Rivera. Who is Marcus Rivera? The best contractor in 3 counties. He did work for Eleanor for years, fixed her porch, updated her bathroom, kept the place standing as long as she lived there. She trusted him completely. Dorothy's eyes twinkled. He's also single, hardworking, and not bad-looking if you like the rugged type. I'm not looking for... I know, dear. I'm just stating facts. Dorothy stood slowly. Call Marcus. Tell him Eleanor sent you. He'll understand. Sarah looked at the envelope, then at her children, then at the elderly woman who had just handed her a lifeline. Why are you helping us? You don't even know us. Because Eleanor asked me to, and because Margaret would have done the same for anyone I loved. Dorothy walked them to the door. This town takes care of its own, Sarah. You're one of us now, whether you realize it or not. 3 hours later, Sarah stood in the wreckage of her kitchen phone pressed to her ear, listening to it ring. Rivera Construction. This is Marcus. His voice was deep and steady. Sarah found herself gripping the phone tighter. Mr. Rivera, my name is Sarah Mitchell. I just bought the old Hawkins place and Dorothy Hawkins said I should call you. She said Eleanor left instructions. A long pause. Eleanor's house finally sold? Yes. And you're connected to the Mitchells, Margaret Mitchell's family. She was my grandmother. Another pause. When Marcus spoke again, his voice had changed. Softer. More personal. Eleanor talked about your family all the time. She always said someone would come. I thought she was being sentimental. He cleared his throat. How bad is the house? Bad. Really bad. The roof leaks everywhere. The stairs nearly killed my daughter yesterday. The plumbing makes sounds I can't identify. And I'm pretty sure something died in the walls. That would be the raccoon from 2019. I told Eleanor to let me fix it properly, but she said she'd gotten used to the smell. Despite everything, Sarah laughed. It felt foreign in her throat. Can you come look at it? I know Dorothy said you're the best, but I should tell you up front, I don't have much money. Whatever estimate you give me, I probably can't afford it. Let me see it first, then we'll figure something out. Eleanor would haunt me if I let her house fall down. Marcus arrived within the hour. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with work-roughened hands and eyes that had seen too much sadness. Sarah would later learn his wife had died of cancer 3 years ago, leaving him to raise a now-grown daughter alone. But in that moment, all she saw was competence and kindness as he walked through the house making notes, testing floors, examining walls. Emma watched him with suspicion. Lucas followed him like a shadow, asking questions about everything. What's that tool for? Checking moisture in the walls. Is there a lot of moisture? More than I'd like. Is that why it smells weird? That's one reason, yes. Marcus finished his inspection and found Sarah in the parlor where she'd been trying to organize their meager supplies. "I'm not going to sugarcoat this," he said. "The house needs serious work. The roof is first priority. Then electrical. Then plumbing. After that, everything else becomes manageable." "How much?" Marcus hesitated. "For everything. Probably 60 to 80,000 if you hire it all out." Sarah felt the floor tilt under her feet. "I have $12,000. "I know. Dorothy told me your situation." He held up a hand before she could respond. "I have a proposal. I'll do the roof at cost, just materials, no labor. In exchange, you help me with some design work for my business. Dorothy mentioned you're a graphic designer." "I am, but that hardly seems like a fair trade." "I've been using the same logo since 1998. My website looks like it was built by my nephew because it was built by my nephew. I need help, and you need a roof. Seems fair to me." Sarah studied his face, looking for the catch, the angle, the ulterior motive. She found nothing but sincerity. "Why would you do this?" "Because Eleanor was good to me when my wife was sick. She brought food. She sat with Karen when I had to work. She paid for things she pretended were free." Marcus's voice roughened. "She never asked for anything in return except a promise that I'd help whoever eventually took the house. I intend to keep that promise." Sarah felt tears threatening again. She was so tired of crying, but she was also so tired of carrying everything alone. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, thank you. Don't thank me yet. We've got a lot of work ahead." The first week was brutal. Marcus and a small crew arrived each morning at 7 to work on the roof. Sarah spent her days trying to make the house livable while simultaneously fielding calls from potential design clients Dorothy had somehow drummed up. The bookstore owner, a local bakery, a bed and breakfast looking to attract tourists. Emma remained wary but functional. She helped where she could, mostly sorting through debris and salvaging anything that looked original to the house. She had a good eye for detail and a surprising knowledge of vintage items. "Great-grandma taught me," she admitted when Sarah asked. "She used to take me to antique shops and explain what everything was worth. I thought it was boring at the time. Now I kind of miss it." Lucas became Marcus's unofficial apprentice, learning to measure, to hammer, to sand. He soaked up knowledge like a sponge, and Marcus was patient with him in a way that made Sarah's chest ache. By the end of the first week, the roof was secure. It wasn't pretty, that would come later, but it no longer leaked. Sarah stood in the parlor that night looking up at the ceiling that wasn't dripping for the first time and felt something that might have been hope. Then her phone rang. Brandon's number. She almost didn't answer, but the kids were in the next room and she didn't want them to hear the phone going to voicemail and wonder why. "What do you want, Brandon?" "To give you a chance to come to your senses. Child Services called me back. They're opening an investigation into your living conditions." Sarah's blood went cold. "You actually called them?" "I told you I would. The house is being renovated. We have running water, electricity, heat." "That's not what I told them. You lied. I described my concerns. How you interpret them is your problem." Brandon's voice dripped with satisfaction. "A social worker will be visiting within the week. If they find those kids living in a construction zone with a pregnant woman who can't provide basic safety, well, that's grounds for emergency custody." Sarah's hands were shaking. "The kids are fine. They're safe. They're—" "Save it for the social worker. I'll see you in court, Sarah." He hung up. Sarah stood frozen, phone still pressed to her ear, trying to breathe through the panic. A child services investigation. Emergency custody. Brandon had weaponized the system against her, and she had no idea how to fight back. "Mom." Emma appeared in the doorway. "Mom, what's wrong? You look like you're going to pass out." "Your father called child services on us." "He what?" "He told them we're living in unsafe conditions. They're sending someone to investigate." Emma's face went pale, then red with fury. "That lying piece of—" "Emma." "No, Mom, no. He doesn't get to do this. He cheated on you. He abandoned us. He told you to get rid of the baby, and now he wants to take us away." Emma was shaking. I won't go. I won't go live with him and his stupid girlfriend. I'd rather sleep on the street. You're not sleeping on the street, and you're not going anywhere. Sarah pulled her daughter close. We're going to fix whatever they want us to fix. We're going to show them this house is safe. We're going to fight. With what? We don't have money for lawyers. We have each other. Right now, that's enough. But even as she said it, Sarah wasn't sure she believed it. The next morning, she told Marcus about the call. He listened without interrupting, his jaw tightening with each detail. When is the social worker coming? Sometime this week. They wouldn't give me an exact day. Then we work faster. Marcus pulled out his phone and started making calls. Within an hour, 4 more people had arrived at the house. A plumber Dorothy knew from church, an electrician who owed Marcus a favor, 2 retired carpenters from the senior center who said they had nothing better to do. I can't afford to pay all of you, Sarah protested. Nobody asked you to, the electrician said. We're doing this for Eleanor. You didn't even know Eleanor. No, but my grandmother did. Used to play bridge with her every Thursday for 40 years. She'd skin me alive if I let Eleanor's house fail now. Sarah looked at the group of strangers who had shown up to help her, and for the first time, she understood what Dorothy had meant about the town taking care of its own. They worked around the clock. The plumber fixed the most dangerous issues. The electrician updated the wiring in the main living areas. The carpenters repaired the stairs and reinforced the floors. Marcus coordinated everything while Sarah cleaned, painted, and tried to turn chaos into something that looked like a home. On the 4th day, Sarah was painting the parlor when a wave of dizziness hit her so hard she had to grab the wall to stay upright. The paintbrush clattered to the floor. Her vision blurred. Mrs. Mitchell! One of the carpenters rushed over. Mrs. Mitchell, are you okay? I'm fine, just stood up too fast. But she wasn't fine. Her heart was racing, her hands were trembling, and there was a strange pressure in her lower back that hadn't been there that morning. Sarah. Marcus appeared at her side. When did you last eat? She tried to remember. Breakfast maybe. It's 4 in the afternoon. I've been busy. You're 6 months pregnant and you forgot to eat for 8 hours. His voice was gentle but firm. Sit down, now. I'm getting you food. Sarah let herself be guided to a chair too exhausted to argue. Lucas appeared with a glass of water. Emma followed with crackers from their supplies. Mom, you have to take care of yourself, Emma said, and the role reversal wasn't lost on either of them. You can't fix the house if you collapse. I know. There's so much to do. And the social worker is coming, and your father will not win. Emma's voice was steel. I'll tell the social worker myself. I'll tell them exactly what kind of person he is. I'll tell them about the affair, about what he said about the baby, about everything. Emma, that's not fair. Neither is what he's doing to you, to us. Emma knelt beside her mother's chair. Let me help, really help, not just sorting through junk, but actually making decisions. I'm 15. I can handle more than you think. Sarah looked at her daughter, really looked, and saw the woman she was becoming. Strong, fierce, loyal. Okay, Sarah said. Okay. We're partners in this. Emma nodded once, sharp and certain. Partners. The social worker arrived on day 6. Her name was Patricia Chen, and she was neither warm nor cold, just efficient. Professional. Taking notes on everything she saw. Sarah gave her a tour of the house, pointing out all the work that had been done. The repaired stairs, the updated electrical, the new smoke detectors Marcus had installed that morning. The house is still under renovation, Patricia observed. You're living in an active construction site. The work is being done during the day when the children are at school. We've sectioned off of the unsafe areas. The living quarters are completely secure. More notes. Patricia interviewed Emma separately. Sarah waited in the kitchen, trying not to throw up from anxiety. She could hear muffled voices, but couldn't make out words. When Emma emerged, her face was unreadable. She wants to talk to Lucas now, Emma said. What did you tell her? The truth. Sarah had no idea if that was good or bad. Patricia spent 30 minutes with Lucas, then another 20 minutes walking through the house alone, taking photographs. When she finally returned to where Sarah waited, her expression gave nothing away. Mrs. Mitchell, I've completed my assessment. I'll be submitting my report to the court within 48 hours. Can you tell me anything? Am I going to lose my children? Patricia hesitated. It was the first crack in her professional armor. Off the record, your ex-husband described conditions that don't match what I'm seeing here. The children are clean, well-fed, and clearly bonded to you. The house needs work, but you're addressing that actively. I don't see grounds for emergency custody. Sarah nearly collapsed with relief. However, Patricia continued, I'm required to report everything factually. The court will make the final decision. My recommendation carries weight, but it's not the last word. What's your recommendation going to be? That the children remain in your custody while the renovation continues with a follow-up visit in 30 days to assess progress. Sarah grabbed Patricia's hands before she could stop herself. Thank you. Thank you so much. Patricia's professional mask slipped into something almost like a smile. Take care of yourself, Mrs. Mitchell. You're doing better than you think. After Patricia left, Sarah called Brandon. He answered on the first ring, clearly expecting triumph. Well, when do I pick up my kids? You don't. A long pause. What? The social worker found nothing wrong. The kids are staying with me. That's impossible, I told her. You told her lies, and she saw through them. Sarah's voice was steady now, stronger than it had been in months. I'm done being afraid of you, Brandon. I'm done letting you control my life. You want to keep fighting, fine. Fight. But I'm not backing down anymore. You can't afford to fight me. You have nothing. I have my children. I have my baby. I have a house full of people who showed up to help me when you showed up to tear me down. Sarah took a breath. I have everything that matters. She hung up before he could respond. That night, after the workers had gone home and the kids were asleep, Sarah sat alone in the parlor with Eleanor's journal. She read the later entries, the ones about hope and healing and finding family in unexpected places. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Dorothy. I heard the social worker visited. How did it go? Sarah typed back. Good. She's recommending the kids stay with me. I knew it would work out. Eleanor always said the house protects its own. I'm starting to believe that. Good. Now get some rest. Tomorrow we start phase 2 of the renovation. Marcus has plans. Sarah smiled despite her exhaustion. Phase 2. Plans. A future that was starting to look less impossible. She was about to put down her phone when another text came through. This one from Marcus. I found something in the wall today while fixing a section near the kitchen. Another box. I didn't open it. Thought you should see it first. It was hidden deliberately, like someone wanted it found by the right person at the right time. Sarah's heart began to pound. I'll be there first thing in the morning, she typed back. I'll wait for you. Whatever's in there, you shouldn't face it alone. Sarah read his words 3 times. You shouldn't face it alone. When was the last time anyone had said that to her and meant it? She pressed a hand to her belly, feeling her baby shift inside her. Another person counting on her to get this right. We're going to be okay, she whispered to the child she hadn't met yet. All of us. We're going to be okay. Outside, the Vermont wind picked up, rattling the windows that didn't quite seal properly yet. But inside, the house held steady, its old bones creaking but firm. Eleanor had been right. The bones were what mattered. Everything else could be rebuilt. Sarah fell asleep with the journal pressed against her heart, dreaming of secrets waiting to be discovered, and a house that had waited decades for her to come home. Sarah arrived at the house before dawn, unable to sleep after Marcus's message. He was already there, leaning against his truck, with 2 cups of coffee waiting for her just like he said he would. "You didn't have to come this early," Sarah said, accepting the coffee gratefully. "Neither did you, but here we both are." They stood together in the cold March morning, steam rising from their cups, neither quite sure what to say next. Sarah had spent the whole night wondering what could be in another hidden box. What else had Eleanor left behind? What other secrets were waiting? "Show me where you found it," she finally said. Marcus led her inside and through the kitchen to a section of wall near the pantry. He had already removed part of the damaged plaster, revealing old wooden slats beneath. "I was checking for water damage when I noticed something off about this section. The wood sounded hollow in a way it shouldn't." He pointed to a gap between the slats. "The box is in there. I could reach it, but I wanted you to be the one to pull it out." Sarah handed him her coffee and knelt down. Her pregnant belly made the position awkward, but she managed to reach into the gap. Her fingers touched cold metal. "I feel it." She carefully worked the box free, her heart pounding harder with each inch. When it finally came loose, she sat back on her heels and stared at what she held. This box was different from the first one, larger, made of tin with a faded floral pattern, and it wasn't locked. "Do you want me to give you privacy?" Marcus asked. Sarah looked up at him. "No, stay, please." She opened the lid. Inside were more photographs, these ones newer than the 1940s pictures from before. 1990s based on the clothing and hairstyles. And there were letters, dozens of them, all addressed to Eleanor in the same handwriting. Sarah picked up the first letter and unfolded it. "Dear Mom," it began. "I know you told me not to keep writing, that it was too painful for both of us, but I can't stop. Finding you was the best thing that ever happened to me, and I need you to know how much you mean to me. Catherine." Sarah's hands trembled. These were Catherine's letters to Eleanor. The daughter who had found her birth mother after 50 years. The daughter who had died in 2005. She read through letter after letter, each one revealing more of their relationship. Catherine writing about her children, her grandchildren, her fears and hopes in daily life. And throughout it all, a deep abiding love for the mother she had only known for a decade. Then Sarah found a photograph that made her stop breathing. It was a picture of Catherine standing in front of this very house, arm in arm with another woman. A woman Sarah recognized instantly. Her grandmother, Margaret. On the back in Catherine's handwriting, "Me and Aunt Margaret, Christmas 1998. She's been more of a family to me than most blood relatives. Mom says that's because real family is about love, not DNA. I'm starting to believe she's right." "They knew each other," Sarah whispered. "Catherine and my grandmother. They were close." Marcus knelt beside her, looking at the photograph. "It makes sense. If Eleanor and Margaret were best friends for 60 years, Catherine would have known Margaret too once she reconnected with Eleanor. But my grandmother never told me. She never mentioned Catherine at all. Maybe she was protecting Eleanor's privacy. Or maybe she was waiting for the right time." Sarah kept digging through the box. More photographs. More letters. And then at the very bottom, a sealed envelope with Sarah's name on it. Not her grandmother's handwriting this time. Catherine's. Oh God. Sarah pressed the envelope against her chest. "This is from Catherine. She wrote something for me specifically. Are you going to open it?" "I'm afraid to." Marcus sat down beside her, his shoulder touching hers. "Whatever it says, you don't have to face it alone." Sarah took a shaky breath and opened the envelope. "Dear Sarah," the letter began. "I know this is strange, receiving a letter from someone you've never met. But I feel like I know you through your grandmother. Margaret talks about you constantly, how smart you are, how creative, how stubborn, in the best possible way. She says you remind her of Eleanor, which means you remind her of my mother. I like that. I like thinking we're connected across generations, even if we never meet face to face. I'm writing this in 2004, a year after we found each other. I've been diagnosed with cancer, and the doctors aren't optimistic. I may not be around much longer to watch your story unfold. But I want you to know something important. Sometimes life breaks us in ways that seem unforgivable. Sometimes we make choices that haunt us for decades. But broken things can be healed. Lost things can be found. And love has a way of reaching across time and distance to find the people who need it most. My mother taught me that. Your grandmother taught me that. And now I'm passing it on to you. If you ever find yourself lost, Sarah, come back to Willowbrook. Come back to the house that held my mother's secrets and her hopes and her unending capacity for love. It will be waiting for you. I promise. With love across the years, Catherine. Sarah was sobbing by the time she finished reading. Great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. Marcus pulled her against his chest and held her while she cried, not saying anything, just being there. When she finally quieted, she looked up at him with swollen eyes. She knew. Catherine knew I would need this place someday. She and Eleanor both knew. It seems like they did. How is that possible? How could they know something 20 years before it happened? Marcus was quiet for a moment. Maybe they didn't know specifically. Maybe they just hoped. And maybe hoping hard enough for long enough has a way of making things happen. Sarah wiped her face. That's either the most beautiful thing I've ever heard or complete nonsense. Can't it be both? Despite everything, she laughed. It was watery and weak, but it was real. Thank you, she said, for being here, for not thinking I'm crazy. You're not crazy. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. Their eyes met. Something passed between them. Not romance, not yet, but the possibility of it. The first fragile stirring of something that could become more. The moment was broken by the sound of a car pulling up outside. Sarah quickly gathered the letters and photographs back into the box. Expecting someone? Marcus asked. No. They walked to the front door together. A sleek black SUV sat in the driveway. A woman Sarah didn't recognize was stepping out of the driver's side, but Sarah recognized the man who emerged from the passenger side. Brandon. Her stomach dropped. What are you doing here? Brandon smiled, his most charming smile, the one that used to make her heart flutter. Now it just made her nauseous. I came to see my children, Sarah. I'm their father. I have every right. Your visitation is scheduled for next month in Boston. This is not part of the agreement. The agreement also says you'll provide a safe and stable living environment. Last time I checked, a construction zone doesn't qualify. He gestured at the house behind her. Look at this place. It's falling apart. It's being renovated. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're playing house in a condemned building with a man I don't know while my children are inside unsupervised. Sarah felt Marcus tense beside her. I'm the contractor. Marcus said, his voice calm but firm. And the children are at school where they should be. And you are? Marcus Rivera. I've been helping Sarah restore this property. Brandon looked Marcus up and down with undisguised contempt. Helping? Is that what they call it now? Brandon. Sarah stepped forward, putting herself between the two men. You need to leave. You can't just show up unannounced and start making accusations. Actually, I can. Because according to my lawyer, improper supervision and unsuitable living conditions are grounds for an emergency custody modification. He pulled out his phone and started taking pictures of the house. Thank you for providing such excellent evidence. You're wasting your time. The social worker already cleared us. Social workers can be wrong. Judges can be persuaded, especially when they see photos of a pregnant woman living in squalor with a strange man. The woman from the SUV finally spoke. Brandon, maybe we should go. This isn't accomplishing anything. Sarah looked at her closely for the first time. Young, pretty, nervous. This had to be Kristen. The woman Brandon had left her for. So you're Kristen, Sarah said. Kristen flushed. I didn't want to come. I told him this was a bad idea. Then why did you? Because he asked me to. Because I thought maybe we could all be civil about this. Sarah laughed, but there was no humor in it. Civil. Your boyfriend called child services on me. He's trying to take my children. He told me to get rid of my baby. There's nothing civil about any of this. Kristen's face went pale. She turned to Brandon. You told her to get rid of the baby. It's more complicated than that. You said you wanted a clean break. You didn't say anything about Kristen, not now. No, actually right now. Kristen's voice was rising. What else haven't you told me? What else have you lied about? Brandon's charming mask slipped. For just a moment, Sarah saw the cold anger beneath it. Get back in the car. Don't talk to me like I'm a child. I said get in the car. Kristen flinched. It was small, barely noticeable, but Sarah caught it. She recognized it because she had done the same thing 1,000 times during her marriage. That involuntary shrinking when Brandon raised his voice. That learned fear response. Kristen, Sarah said quietly, you don't have to go with him. Stay out of this. Brandon grabbed Kristen's arm. Marcus stepped forward. Take your hand off her. This is none of your business. You're on my worksite harassing my client, manhandling a woman who clearly doesn't want to be touched. That makes it my business. The two men stared at each other. Brandon was taller, but Marcus was broader, more solid. And there was something in Marcus's eyes that said he wasn't bluffing. Brandon released Kristen's arm. This isn't over, Sarah. I'll see you in court. He stalked back to the SUV and got in, slamming the door hard enough to rock the vehicle. Kristen didn't move. She stood in the driveway, rubbing her arm where Brandon had grabbed her, looking lost. Are you okay? Sarah asked. I don't know. Kristen's voice was barely a whisper. I thought I knew who he was. I thought he was different with me than he was with you. They never are. He told me you were the problem, that you drove him away, that you were difficult and demanding and impossible to please. And what do you think now? Kristen looked at the house, at Marcus, at Sarah's pregnant belly. I think I've made a terrible mistake. Brandon honked the horn, making all of them jump. I have to go. Kristen started toward the car, then stopped. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I didn't know about any of it. She got in the SUV, and Brandon peeled out of the driveway fast enough to spray gravel. Sarah watched them go, her heart still racing. Beside her, Marcus let out a long breath. Well, he said. That was something. That was Brandon. He always like that. Only when he's not getting what he wants. Marcus shook his head. How were you married to him for 17 years? I ask myself that every day. That afternoon, Sarah picked Emma and Lucas up from school and told them about Brandon's visit. She tried to keep her voice calm, factual, but Emma saw right through it. He came here, to the house, without telling anyone. He wanted to take pictures, build a case against me. That's insane. He can't just... Emma stopped. Wait, did he bring her Kristen? Yes. Was she horrible? Did she say terrible things about us? Actually, no. She seemed almost as surprised by his behavior as we were. Emma processed this. Do you think she's starting to figure out what he's really like? I think she might be. Good. I hope she runs far away from him. I hope she ruins his perfect new life like he ruined ours. Emma. What? It's true. He doesn't get to be happy after what he did. He doesn't deserve it. Sarah pulled into the driveway and parked. She turned to face both of her children. Listen to me. Both of you. Your father is going to keep trying to hurt us. That's who he is now. Maybe it's who he always was. But we are not going to let his darkness poison us. We're going to focus on building something good here. Something real. We're going to finish this house and make it a home. And we're going to do it together. Lucas nodded solemnly. Together. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then, fine, but if he shows up again, I'm calling the police. That's fair. They went inside to find Dorothy Hawkins sitting at the kitchen table with Marcus going over renovation plans. There you are, Dorothy said. I let myself in. Hope you don't mind. How did you even get in? Eleanor gave me a key years ago. I figured it still worked. She smiled. Besides, I have news. Good news for once. Sarah sat down heavily exhausted from the day's drama. I could use some good news. The town council met this morning. They've decided to designate the house as a local historic landmark, which means you'll qualify for restoration grants. Real money, Sarah. Enough to finish the work properly. Sarah stared at her. You're serious? Completely. I may have made a few phone calls to people who owed me favors. Eleanor was beloved in this town. People want to see her house saved. For the second time that day, Sarah burst into tears. But these were different tears. Relief, gratitude, hope. Emma came over and put a hand on her mother's shoulder. Lucas climbed into the chair beside her and leaned against her arm. Mom, why are you crying? He asked. Dorothy said it was good news. It is good news, baby. It's the best news. Then why are you sad? I'm not sad. I'm just overwhelmed, in a good way. Marcus caught her eye across the table and smiled. It was a small smile private meant just for her. You deserve good things, Sarah, Dorothy said. Eleanor always believed that. So did Margaret. Now it's time for you to believe it too. That night after the children were asleep and the house was quiet, Sarah sat with Eleanor's journal and Catherine's letters spread around her. She was trying to piece together the timeline to understand the full story of the women who had loved this house before her. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Mrs. Mitchell. This is Patricia Chen, the social worker. Sarah's heart seized. Is something wrong? No, nothing's wrong. I just wanted to give you a heads up. Your ex-husband filed a complaint about my report. He's claiming I was biased and didn't do a thorough investigation. Can he do that? He can file whatever he wants. Doesn't mean it'll go anywhere. Patricia paused. But there will be another home visit. Different social worker. Probably within the next 2 weeks. So I have to prove myself all over again. I'm afraid so. I'm sorry, Mrs. Mitchell. I know this isn't fair. Fair stopped being part of my vocabulary a long time ago. After hanging up, Sarah sat in the darkness, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on her. Another investigation. More scrutiny. More chances for Brandon to twist the truth. She picked up her phone again and texted Marcus. Brandon filed a complaint. There's going to be another home visit. His response came immediately. When? 2 weeks probably. Then we work faster. We'll make this place so perfect no one can question it. You don't have to keep helping me. You've already done so much. I know I don't have to. I want to. Sarah stared at those words for a long time. I want to. When was the last time anyone had said that to her and meant it? When was the last time someone had chosen to be part of her struggles instead of running from them? Why? She typed back. The response took longer this time. When it came, it made her breath catch. Because Eleanor was right about you. You're worth believing in. And because I haven't felt this alive in 3 years, helping you. Being part of something that matters, it's giving me a reason to get up in the morning. I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose you. Sarah read the message 3 times. Then she did something she hadn't done in months. She let herself hope for something beyond survival. She let herself imagine a future that included more than just getting through each day. Okay, she typed back. Let's make this house perfect. Together. Together. The next 2 weeks were a blur of activity. Word had spread through the town about Brandon's harassment and the upcoming investigation. People showed up in waves to help. The baker brought pastries every morning. The librarian came with boxes of books for the children. The hardware store owner donated paint and supplies. The retired carpenters returned with friends. Emma threw herself into the work with unexpected passion. She stripped wallpaper, sanded floors, helped organize the kitchen. She even started documenting the renovation on social media, posting updates that quickly gained a following. "Mom, we have 10,000 followers," she announced one evening. "People are actually interested in our story." "That's wonderful, honey." "Some of them are sending money, like donations. They want to help us finish the house." Sarah looked at the screen Emma was showing her. Strangers from across the country moved by their story, sending $5, $10, $50. "I don't know what to say." "Say thank you and keep going. That's what the comments keep telling us." Lucas had become Marcus's shadow, learning everything he could about construction. He could now identify different types of wood, explain the purpose of various tools, and discuss load-bearing walls with surprising accuracy. "Mr. Rivera says I have a natural talent," he told Sarah proudly. "He says I could be an architect someday if I wanted." "Is that what you want?" Lucas considered carefully. "I want to build things that help people, houses where families can feel safe." "Is that what architects do?" "That's exactly what the best architects do." Sarah's pregnancy was progressing, her belly growing larger each week. The baby was active, especially at night, kicking and rolling, as if impatient to meet the world. Sarah had started talking to her, telling her about the house and the people who were helping them, telling her about the family she would be born into. "You're going to have a sister who's learning to be brave," Sarah whispered one night. "And a brother who wants to build things. And a mama who's learning that broken doesn't mean beyond repair." On the morning of the second home visit, Sarah woke to find Emma already up making breakfast. "You didn't have to do that. I wanted to help, and I wanted to practice in case they ask if we know how to feed ourselves." Sarah hugged her daughter tightly. "When did you get so grown up?" "Somewhere between Dad leaving and the stairs trying to eat me." The new social worker was a man named Thomas Grant. He was older than Patricia, more formal, and clearly determined to be thorough. He spent 3 hours going through every room, checking every closet, interviewing each child separately. Sarah waited in the kitchen, trying not to panic. Marcus had offered to stay, but she'd asked him to give them space. She needed to show she could handle this on her own. When Thomas finally finished, he sat across from Sarah at the kitchen table. "Mrs. Mitchell, I've reviewed the previous report, inspected the home, and spoken with your children at length. And I'm going to recommend that custody remain with you." Sarah's relief was so intense, she felt dizzy. "Thank you. Thank you so much." "Don't thank me. Thank yourself. You've created a safe, loving environment for your children under extremely difficult circumstances. The improvements to this property are remarkable given your timeline and resources, and both Emma and Lucas spoke highly of you." He paused. "They also had some things to say about their father that I found concerning." "What kind of things?" "Things that suggest his pursuit of custody may be more about control than genuine concern for the children's welfare." Thomas closed his notebook. "I'll be including that observation in my report. It may not change the court's decision, but it will be on record." After he left, Sarah called Marcus. "It's over. He's recommending I keep custody." "That's incredible. Sarah, that's amazing. I couldn't have done it without you. Without everyone." "Yes, you could have. We just made it a little easier." That weekend, the town threw an impromptu celebration. Someone set up a barbecue in Sarah's backyard. Dorothy brought her famous apple pie. The librarian organized games for the children. Half the town seemed to show up, crowding into the house that was finally starting to look like a home. Sarah stood on the repaired porch watching her children play with kids they'd befriended, watching neighbors laugh and share food, watching Marcus help Dorothy to a chair and bring her a plate. This was what Eleanor had meant. This was what the house could give. Not just shelter, but community. Not just walls, but belonging. Emma came to stand beside her. "You know what I realized," Emma said. "What's that?" "This is better than Boston. The house we had with Dad was bigger and fancier, but it never felt like this. It never felt like people actually cared about each other." "I think you're right." I'm glad we came here, Mom. I know I said I hated it. I know I blamed you for everything. But I was wrong. Sarah put an arm around her daughter. You weren't wrong to be angry. You were just directing it at the wrong person. I'm not angry anymore. Not at you anyway. And your father? Emma was quiet for a long moment. I think I'm sad for him. He's going to spend his whole life chasing the wrong things. He's never going to know what he missed, what we're building here without him. Sarah kissed the top of her daughter's head. That's a very mature way to look at it. I've been reading Eleanor's journal. She wrote a lot about forgiveness, about how holding on to anger only poisons the person holding it. Emma looked up at her mother. I don't want to be poisoned, Mom. I want to be free. Then be free, baby. That's all any of us can do. The party continued until after dark. When the last guests finally left, Sarah walked through the house with Marcus surveying everything that had been accomplished. The nursery is almost done, he said. Another week, maybe 2. The baby will be here in 6 weeks. We'll make it. They stood in the doorway of the room that would soon hold a crib, a changing table, a rocking chair that Dorothy had donated from her own home. Marcus, I need to tell you something. I'm listening. When Brandon first served me with divorce papers, I thought my life was over. I thought I had nothing left. I thought I would never be happy again. Sarah turned to face him. I was wrong about all of it, and you're a big part of why. Marcus stepped closer. Sarah, I'm not saying we need to be anything right now. I'm pregnant with another man's baby. I'm still legally fighting for my children. My life is a mess. Your life is beautiful. It's chaotic. Beautifully chaotic. He reached out and took her hand. I'm not going anywhere, Sarah. Whatever you need, whenever you need it, I'll be here. Sarah squeezed his hand, feeling the roughness of his palm, the steadiness of his grip. Thank you. For everything. Don't thank me yet. We still have 6 weeks of renovation and a baby to prepare for. Then we better get some sleep. Good night, Sarah. Good night, Marcus. She watched him walk to his truck, watched the taillights disappear down the road. Then she went back inside, locked the doors, and climbed the stairs to her bedroom. The house settled around her, creaking softly in the night wind. But the sounds weren't threatening anymore. They were familiar, comforting. She placed her hand on her belly, feeling the baby shift inside her. We're almost home, little one, she whispered. We're almost home. She grabbed her phone from the nightstand. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely dial. Marcus? Her voice came out strangled. Something's happening. The baby. I'm on my way. He made the 15-minute drive in 8. By the time he burst through the front door, Sarah was doubled over on the stairs, unable to go up or down. How far apart are the contractions? I don't know. 3 minutes, maybe less. That's too fast. We need to go now. The kids. I can't leave them alone. I already called Dorothy. She's coming. He lifted Sarah in his arms and carried her to his truck, just as Dorothy's car pulled into the driveway. The elderly woman rushed toward them. Go, Dorothy commanded. I've got the children. Just go. The drive to the hospital was a blur of pain and fear. Sarah gripped Marcus's hand so hard she was sure she'd break his fingers. He didn't complain. He just drove faster. It's too early, Sarah gasped between contractions. She's not supposed to come for another month. Babies have their own schedules. What if something's wrong? What if she's not ready? She's your daughter. She'll be ready. They reached the hospital in 23 minutes. Marcus pulled up to the emergency entrance and was out of the truck before it fully stopped shouting for help. Everything after that happened in fragments. Nurses surrounding her. A wheelchair. Bright lights. Voices asking questions she couldn't process. How many weeks? 36. Is this your first pregnancy? 3rd, I have 2 other children. Any complications? Stress. A lot of stress. They rushed her to labor and delivery. A doctor appeared young and calm, examining her with practiced efficiency. "You're already 7 centimeters dilated. This baby is coming whether we're ready or not." "Is she going to be okay?" "She's early." 36 weeks is considered early term. Not ideal, but most babies do fine. We'll have the NICU team standing by just in case. Sarah looked around frantically. "Where's Marcus, the man who brought me in?" "I'm here." He appeared at her side, still in his work clothes, his face pale with worry. "I'm not going anywhere." "You don't have to stay. This isn't your—" "Sarah." He took her hand firmly. "Stop. I'm staying." Another contraction hit, and Sarah couldn't argue anymore. She could only hold on and ride the wave of pain. The next 3 hours were the longest of her life. The contractions came faster and harder. The doctor checked her progress every 30 minutes, each time looking more concerned. "The baby's heart rate is dipping with each contraction. We may need to consider a C-section." "Whatever you have to do, just make sure she's okay." At 4:47 in the morning, after one final push that tore a scream from Sarah's throat, her daughter entered the world. She was tiny, so tiny, and she wasn't crying. Why isn't she crying? Sarah tried to sit up. Why isn't my baby crying? The NICU team swarmed around the tiny body. Sarah could see them working, could see their hands moving with urgent precision, but she couldn't see her daughter's face. "What's happening? Someone tell me what's happening." Marcus held her down, his own face ashen. "Let them work. They know what they're doing." Seconds stretched into eternities. Sarah prayed to every god she could think of, made promises she wasn't sure she could keep. Then finally, a thin wail pierced the silence. "There she is." The doctor's voice flooded with relief. She just needed a little encouragement. They brought the baby to Sarah for one brief moment. She was impossibly small, with a dusting of dark hair and eyes squeezed shut against the harsh hospital lights. "She's beautiful," Marcus whispered. "She's perfect." Sarah pressed her lips to her daughter's forehead. "Hello, Eleanor. I've been waiting for you." Then they took her away to the NICU, and Sarah's arms felt emptier than they'd ever felt in her life. Baby Eleanor weighed 4 pounds 6 ounces. She was healthy, the doctors said, just small. She needed time to grow, to learn to regulate her own temperature, to feed properly. They estimated 2 to 3 weeks in the NICU. Sarah spent every moment she was allowed at her daughter's side. She sat by the incubator for hours, watching Eleanor's tiny chest rise and fall, counting each breath like a prayer. "You're going to wear yourself out," Marcus said on the third day, finding Sarah exactly where he'd left her 8 hours before. "I can't leave her. She shouldn't be alone." "She's not alone. She has an entire medical team watching her around the clock." "It's not the same." Marcus pulled up a chair beside her. "Then I'll stay too. We cannot leave her together." Sarah looked at him. Really looked for the first time in days. He had dark circles under his eyes. His clothes were wrinkled. He'd been running between the hospital and the house, managing the last of the renovation work, making sure Emma and Lucas were fed and got to school. "You're exhausted," she said. "So are you. This isn't your responsibility. Any of it." "I know. That's what makes it matter." Sarah didn't have the energy to argue. She just leaned against his shoulder and let him hold her while she watched her daughter sleep. On the 5th day, Emma and Lucas came to meet their sister. They stood at the window of the NICU, faces pressed to the glass, staring at the tiny creature in the incubator. "She's so small," Lucas whispered. "She looks like a doll." "She's a fighter," Sarah said. "The doctors say she's gaining weight faster than expected." "Can we hold her?" "Not yet, but soon." Emma was quiet, her expression unreadable. When Sarah asked what she was thinking, Emma's answer surprised her. "I was mad when you told us about the pregnancy. I thought you were being selfish. Having another baby when our family was already falling apart. She paused. But looking at her now, I get it. She's not a replacement for what we lost. She's something new. Something that belongs to us, not to Dad, or to the past, or to any of the bad stuff. That's a beautiful way to see it. I'm going to be a good sister to her. I'm going to protect her from anyone who tries to hurt her. Sarah hugged her daughter tightly. I know you will. On the 8th day, Sarah's phone rang. Brandon's number. She almost didn't answer. But something made her pick up. What do you want? I heard you had the baby. His voice was flat, emotionless. Early. How did you know? Kristen told me. She saw something on Emma's social media. Sarah made a mental note to talk to Emma about privacy settings. The baby's fine, not that you care. I care about my children, Sarah. All of them. Really? Because the last time we talked about this baby, you told me to get rid of it. A long silence. I was angry. I said things I didn't mean. You meant every word. I want to see her. Sarah's blood went cold. Absolutely not. She's my daughter too. You don't get to claim her now. Not after everything you said. Not after everything you did. I have legal rights. Then exercise them in court. But you are not coming near my daughter until a judge tells me I have no choice. She hung up before he could respond, her whole body shaking. Marcus found her like that phone clutched in her trembling hand, tears streaming down her face. What happened? Brandon. He wants to see Eleanor. He says he has rights. Marcus's jaw tightened. Does he? I don't know. Probably. I don't know how any of this works. Then we find out. We get a lawyer. A real one this time. With what money I've spent everything on the house. The community fundraiser raised more than you think. Plus there's the grant money for the renovation. We'll figure it out. You keep saying that. We'll figure it out. But what if we can't? What if he takes her? What if he takes all of them? Marcus knelt in front of her, taking both her hands in his. Listen to me. That man abandoned you when you needed him most. He called you names. He tried to take your children through lies and manipulation. No court in this country is going to give him custody of a newborn he told you to abort. You don't know that. I know you. I know how hard you've fought. I know what kind of mother you are. He squeezed her hands. And I know that whatever happens, you won't face it alone. I'll be right here. Dorothy will be right here. This whole town will be right here. Sarah looked into his eyes and saw something she hadn't let herself believe in for a long time. Love. Real, steady, unconditional love. Why? She whispered. Why do you care so much? Because 3 years ago, I lost my wife, and I thought I'd never feel anything again. Then you showed up with your broken house and your broken heart, and somehow you made me want to feel things again. He reached up and brushed a tear from her cheek. You brought me back to life, Sarah. The least I can do is help you fight for yours. She kissed him then. It wasn't planned. It wasn't romantic. It was desperate and grateful and full of everything she couldn't put into words. When they finally pulled apart, Marcus was smiling. Took you long enough? Shut up. Yes, ma'am? Baby Eleanor came home on a Tuesday exactly 18 days after her birth. She weighed 5 pounds 2 ounces, and she had the lungs of a child twice her size. Sarah carried her through the front door of the house and stopped in the entryway overwhelmed. The renovation was complete. Every wall painted, every floor restored, every fixture updated. The house that had been falling apart when she first arrived now glowed with warmth and welcome. How? Sarah breathed. When did you finish all this? While you were at the hospital. Marcus stood behind her, one hand on her shoulder. The whole town pitched in. They wanted it to be ready when Eleanor came home. Dorothy emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron. The nursery is all set up. Emma picked out the bedding. Lucas built a mobile with Marcus's help. You all did this for us. We did it for Eleanor. And for you. And for this house that's waited so long to be a home again. Sarah walked through each room, baby in her arms, seeing everything fresh. The kitchen where she'd found the first hidden box. The parlor where they'd spent that first terrible night. The stairs that had nearly eaten Emma. All of it transformed. All of it beautiful. When she reached the nursery, she broke down completely. It was perfect. Soft yellow walls, white curtains, the crib that the town had donated. And above the crib, a mobile made of tiny wooden houses, each one painted a different color, spinning gently in the breeze from the window. Lucas made one house for each person who helped with the renovation, Marcus explained. There are 37 of them. Sarah counted through her tears. 37 houses. 37 people who had shown up for a stranger because Eleanor Hawkins had believed in the power of community. Thank you, she whispered to the house, to Eleanor's memory, to everyone who had made this possible. Thank you for everything. The first week with Eleanor home was chaos in the best possible way. Emma took to her role as big sister, with fierce protectiveness, barely letting anyone else hold the baby. Lucas appointed himself official helper, fetching diapers and bottles with military efficiency. Marcus was there every day, often staying late into the evening, sometimes sleeping on the couch when Eleanor's crying kept everyone up. You should go home, Sarah told him one night at 3 a.m., walking the floor with a fussy baby. Get some real sleep. My home feels empty. This one doesn't. That's not a reason to torture yourself. Who says I'm torturing myself? Sarah looked at him across the dim room. He was rumpled and exhausted, and absolutely beautiful to her. We should talk about what's happening here, she said. What's happening? Us. Whatever this is. I need to know what you want. Marcus crossed to her and took Eleanor from her arms, settling the baby against his chest with practiced ease. Eleanor immediately quieted her tiny fist, clutching his shirt. I want this, he said simply. I want to be here at 3 a.m. walking the floor. I want to help Emma with her college applications and teach Lucas how to build things. I want to wake up in this house knowing I'm where I belong. I'm a mess, Marcus. I'm divorced. I have 3 kids. I'm still fighting my ex-husband in court. I know. I might lose. He might take them. You won't lose. But if I do, then we'll fight harder. We'll appeal. We'll do whatever it takes. He looked at her with absolute certainty. I'm not going anywhere, Sarah. Not now, not ever. Unless you tell me to. Sarah felt the last of her walls crumble. Stay, she whispered. Please stay. Always. 3 weeks later, Brandon showed up unannounced again. This time, Sarah was ready for him. She answered the door with Eleanor in her arms and steel in her spine. You can't be here, Brandon. There's a restraining order. That's not in effect until the hearing next week. It's a temporary order. It counts. I just want to see her. His voice had lost its usual arrogance. He looked tired, diminished. I just want to see my daughter. She's not your daughter, not in any way that matters. I made a mistake, Sarah. I know that now. Kristen left me. She found out about some things I'd done. Financial things. She was going to go to the police, so she just left. Why should I care about your problems? Because I'm her father. Because despite everything, I'm still the father of your children. Sarah studied the man she'd been married to for 17 years. The man she'd loved. The man she'd built a life with. He looked smaller now. Pathetic. You know what I realized, she said quietly. I spent so long being afraid of you. Afraid of your anger. Afraid of your judgment. Afraid of what you might do. But standing here now looking at you, I don't feel afraid anymore. I just feel sad. Sad. For you. For the life you're wasting. For the family you threw away. She held Eleanor closer. This little girl is going to grow up surrounded by people who love her. Emma and Lucas are going to be okay. I'm going to be okay, and you're going to spend the rest of your life alone wondering why nobody stays. Sarah? Go home, Brandon. There's nothing for you here. She closed the door in his face and locked it. Her hands were shaking, but her heart was steady. The custody hearing took place on a bright May morning. Sarah sat at the plaintiff's table with her lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Rachel Torres, who had taken her case pro bono after hearing her story. Brandon sat across the aisle looking defeated before the proceedings even began. The judge reviewed the evidence, the social worker reports, the documented harassment, the restraining order violation, and the character witnesses, a parade of Willowbrook residents who testified to Sarah's strength, her dedication, her transformation of Eleanor Hawkins's abandoned house into a home. Dorothy Hawkins spoke last. "I've known the Mitchell family across 4 generations," she said. "Sarah's grandmother Margaret was the kindest soul I ever met. And Sarah has that same kindness, that same determination, that same unbreakable spirit. She came to this town with nothing but hope and 2 frightened children. Now she has a home, a community, and a new baby she's raising with more love than most children ever see. If the court has any sense at all, it will recognize that those children belong with their mother." The judge retired to make her decision. Sarah sat rigid in her chair, barely breathing. 37 minutes later, the judge returned. In the matter of Mitchell versus Mitchell regarding custody of Emma Lucas and Eleanor Mitchell, this court finds in favor of the plaintiff. Full custody is awarded to Sarah Mitchell. The defendant is granted supervised visitation rights to be exercised at the plaintiff's discretion. Sarah heard the words but couldn't process them. "Mom." Emma grabbed her arm. "Mom, we won. We won." Then Sarah was crying, and Emma was crying, and Lucas was hugging them both, and somewhere in the gallery she could hear the town of Willowbrook cheering. They had won. They were safe. It was over. Outside the courthouse, Marcus waited with baby Eleanor in his arms. When Sarah emerged, he handed her the baby and pulled all of them into a hug. "I knew it," he said into her hair. "I knew you'd win. I couldn't have done it without you." "Sure you could have. You just didn't have to." That night, the whole town gathered at the house for a celebration. Someone had strung lights through the old oak tree. Someone else had set up tables in the yard. The same neighbors who had rebuilt the roof and rewired the electricity now filled the space with laughter and music and food. Dorothy sat in the place of honor on the front porch, Eleanor sleeping in her arms. "She would have loved this," Dorothy said when Sarah came to sit beside her. "Eleanor, I mean. You're Eleanor's namesake. She always said this house was meant to be full of people." I think she was right. I know she was right. That woman was never wrong about anything. Stubborn as a mule, but never wrong. Sarah laughed. "I wish I could have known her." "You do know her, in a way. Every time you look at this house. Every time you find one of her hidden treasures. Every time you choose love over fear." Dorothy touched Sarah's cheek. "She's in you now, part of your story. Just like you're part of hers." Later, after the guests had gone and the children were asleep, Sarah stood on the porch with Marcus looking up at the stars. "I've been thinking," he said. "About what?" "About the future. About what I want it to look like." Sarah's heart beat faster. "And what do you want it to look like?" "Like this. Like tonight. Like every night for the rest of my life." He turned to face her. "I'm not proposing. Not yet. You've been through too much too fast, and you need time to just be. But I want you to know that when you're ready, I'll be here. Whenever that is. However long it takes." Sarah reached up and touched his face. "What if I don't want to wait?" "Then we won't wait." "What if I want to wake up tomorrow and start our life together?" "Then we'll start tomorrow." "What if I'm scared?" "Then we'll be scared together." He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "But we won't let fear stop us. Not anymore." Sarah thought about everything that had led her to this moment. The betrayal, the divorce, The crumbling house that had seemed like a curse. The secrets hidden in walls. The letters from women who had loved across generations. The community that had shown up when she had nothing left to give. All of it had led here. To this porch. This man. This life. Yes, she said. Yes what? Yes to everything. Yes to tomorrow. Yes to being scared together. Yes to building something new. She smiled up at him. Yes to you, Marcus Rivera. For as long as you'll have me. He pulled her close and held her like he'd never let go. Inside the house, baby Eleanor began to cry. Through the window, Sarah could see Emma getting up to check on her sister Lucas, following close behind. Her family, her home, her future. All of it found in a broken-down house that had been waiting for her all along. 1 year had passed since Sarah Mitchell first stood in the February rain, staring at a house that looked like a graveyard for dreams. Now she stood in the same spot on a June morning, watching her daughter take her first wobbly steps across the newly restored front porch. "That's it, Eleanor. Come to Mama." Baby Eleanor tottered forward, her chubby arms outstretched for balance, her face scrunched with concentration. Behind her, Emma had her phone out recording every second. "She's doing it!" Lucas cheered from the porch swing. "She's actually walking." Eleanor took 3 more steps before her legs gave out and she plopped onto her bottom. Instead of crying, she looked up at Sarah with an expression of pure triumph. "Again," Eleanor said clearly. Her second word. Her first had been home. Sarah scooped her daughter up and covered her face with kisses. "Yes, baby. Again. As many times as you want." "I got it all on video," Emma announced. "This is going viral for sure." "Not everything needs to go viral." "This does. Our followers have been waiting for her first steps since she was born." Sarah shook her head, but couldn't suppress her smile. Emma's social media documentation of their renovation journey had grown into something none of them expected. 300,000 followers across platforms. Brand partnerships. Speaking invitations. What had started as a teenage girl's coping mechanism had become a genuine career opportunity. "Speaking of followers," Emma continued, "I got another email from that literary agent. She wants to know if you've thought more about the book deal." "I've thought about it. And I'm still thinking." The book deal had come out of nowhere. A New York agent had discovered their story through Emma's posts and reached out about the possibility of Sarah writing a memoir. "The House That Found Me," she wanted to call it. A story about divorce renovation community and the secrets hidden in walls. "Mom, this is a huge opportunity. You could tell Eleanor's story. The original Eleanor. People need to hear about her." "I know, honey. I just want to make sure I do it right." Marcus's truck pulled into the driveway, and Sarah felt the familiar flutter in her chest that his arrival always triggered. They had been officially together for 8 months now, and every day still felt like a gift she wasn't sure she deserved. "Ladies," Marcus called, hopping out of the truck. "And gentlemen," he added with a nod to Lucas, "I bring news." "Good news or bad news?" Sarah asked. "Depends on your perspective." He reached into the truck bed and pulled out a rolled-up document. "The Historic Preservation Society just approved our application. The house is now officially on the Vermont Historic Register." Sarah took the document with trembling hands. They accepted it. Every bit of it. Eleanor Hawkins' story, the renovation, the community effort. They said it's one of the most compelling preservation cases they've seen in years. "Does this mean we get a plaque?" Lucas asked excitedly. "It means we get a plaque, potential tourism interest, and access to additional preservation funds for future maintenance." Sarah looked at the house behind her, the fresh white paint gleaming in the morning sun, the restored porch with its original railings, the windows that no longer leaked, the roof that no longer sagged. "She would have loved this," Sarah whispered. "She knows," Marcus said, putting an arm around her. Wherever she is, she knows. That afternoon, Dorothy Hawkins came for her weekly visit. At 89 years old, she moved slower than she had a year ago, but her mind remained sharp as ever. "I have something for you," Dorothy said, settling into her favorite chair in the living room. "Something I've been saving." She reached into her handbag and withdrew a small velvet box. "Eleanor gave this to me before she passed. She made me promise to wait until the right moment to give it to whoever ended up with the house." Dorothy opened the box to reveal an antique ring, a simple gold band with a small ruby set in its center. It was her mother's. 3 generations of Hawkins women wore this ring on their wedding days. Sarah's breath caught. "Dorothy, I can't accept this." "You're not accepting it, you're continuing a tradition." Dorothy took Sarah's hand and pressed the box into her palm. Eleanor never had a daughter to pass it to. Catherine died before she could receive it. But you, Sarah, you're the daughter this house chose. This ring belongs to you now. Sarah opened the box and lifted the ring carefully. It caught the light, the ruby glowing like a tiny ember. "It's beautiful." "It's more than beautiful. It's history. It's connection. It's proof that love reaches across generations to find the people who need it most." Marcus cleared his throat from the doorway. Sarah looked up to find him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Actually," he said, his voice slightly rough, "that timing is kind of perfect." "What do you mean?" Marcus crossed the room and knelt in front of Sarah's chair. Her heart started pounding so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. "I was going to wait. I had a whole plan. Dinner at that restaurant you like. Flowers. A speech I've been practicing for weeks." He pulled a small box from his pocket. "But Dorothy's right. Some things can't wait for the perfect moment. Sometimes you just have to trust that right now is enough." He opened the box. Inside was a ring, not an antique like Eleanor's, but something new. A simple diamond on a silver band. "Sarah Mitchell, I know your life has been complicated. I know you've been hurt. I know you have 3 children and a house that still needs work and an ex-husband who might never stop causing trouble. I know all of that, and I want all of it. Every complicated, messy, beautiful piece." He took her hand. "Will you marry me?" Sarah couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down her face. From somewhere behind her she heard Emma gasp and Lucas whisper excitedly. "Say yes, Mom," Emma urged. "For the love of God, say yes." Sarah laughed through her tears. "Yes, yes, Marcus. 1,000 times yes." He slid the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly. Then he pulled Eleanor's ring from the velvet box and placed it on her other hand. "2 rings," he said. "One for the past, one for the future. Both part of your story now." Sarah threw her arms around him, and the room erupted in cheers. Dorothy was crying. Emma was filming. Lucas was dancing around the room with baby Eleanor in his arms, the toddler shrieking with delighted confusion. In the chaos, Sarah whispered in Marcus's ear, "How long have you been planning this?" "Since the night Eleanor came home from the hospital. I knew then that I never wanted to spend another day without you. You waited 8 months to ask. I wanted you to be sure. I wanted you to have time to heal, to know that you chose me because you wanted me, not because you needed someone." Sarah pulled back to look at his face. This man who had shown up when she had nothing, who had rebuilt her house and her hope, who had loved her children as his own. "I choose you," she said. "Today and every day. I choose you, Marcus Rivera." The news of the engagement spread through Willowbrook like wildfire. Within hours, Sarah's phone was flooded with congratulations from neighbors, friends, and followers who had been watching their story unfold online. But not everyone was happy about the news. 3 days after the proposal, Sarah received a letter from Brandon's lawyer. He was contesting the custody arrangement again, claiming that Sarah's upcoming marriage constituted a significant change in circumstances that required judicial review. "He can't be serious," Emma said when Sarah told her. "He already lost. Twice." He's not trying to win, Marcus observed grimly. He's trying to make your lives difficult, to punish you for moving on. Can he do that? Just keep filing motions forever? There are limits. But yes, technically, he can keep trying as long as he has money for lawyers. Sarah felt the familiar fear rising in her chest, the same fear that had kept her paralyzed for so many years of her marriage. The fear of Brandon's anger, his manipulation, his relentless need for control. Then she looked at the rings on her finger, the ruby that connected her to generations of strong women, the diamond that promised her a future she had chosen for herself. Let him try, she said quietly. What? Let him file whatever he wants. Let him spend his money on lawyers and court dates and pointless motions. I'm done being afraid of him. She squared her shoulders. We're getting married. We're building a life, and he doesn't get to have any power over that anymore. The court date was set for 3 weeks before the wedding. Sarah had considered postponing, but Marcus convinced her not to. Don't give him that victory. Don't let him control your timeline. So they pressed forward. Wedding invitations went out. Dorothy insisted on hosting the bridal shower at her house. The town council offered to let them use the historic town hall for the ceremony. And through it all, Sarah prepared for court. Rachel Torres, her lawyer, was confident. He has no grounds. His own behavior is well documented. The previous judgments are clear. This is harassment, pure and simple. Then why does it feel like I'm going to lose? Because he conditioned you to feel that way. For 17 years he made you believe you couldn't win against him. That's abuse, Sarah. And it takes time to unlearn. The morning of the hearing, Sarah woke at 4 a.m., unable to sleep. She found Marcus already awake in the kitchen making coffee. Couldn't sleep either, she asked. I keep thinking about what I want to say to him, Brandon, if I ever get the chance. What would you say? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. I'd thank him. Thank him. For being stupid enough to let you go. For hurting you so badly that you had to rebuild yourself from nothing. For driving you to Vermont, and this house, and this life. He handed her a cup of coffee. His cruelty gave me my family. I should probably send him a card. Sarah laughed, despite her nerves. That might be going too far. You're right, no card. But privately, in my heart, I'm grateful, because his loss became my everything. The courthouse felt different this time. Sarah walked in with Marcus on one side and Emma on the other. Lucas stayed home with Dorothy and baby Eleanor, but he had hugged his mother fiercely before she left. You're gonna win, Mom. I know it. How do you know? Because you're the good guy, and the good guys always win eventually. Sarah held on to those words as she took her seat at the plaintiff's table. Across the aisle, Brandon sat alone. No Kristen, no support system, just a man in an expensive suit with angry eyes. The judge was different from the previous hearings, older, female. She studied the thick file in front of her with undisguised disapproval. Mr. Mitchell, she began without preamble, I've reviewed your motion and the extensive history of this case. Help me understand what you believe has changed that warrants revisiting the custody arrangement. Brandon's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client contends that Mrs. Mitchell's impending marriage represents a significant change in the household dynamics that could affect the well-being of the minor children. The minor children who, according to multiple social worker reports, are thriving in their mother's care. We believe a fresh evaluation is warranted. The judge turned to Sarah. Mrs. Mitchell, tell me about your fiancé. Sarah stood, her voice steadier than she expected. Marcus Rivera is a contractor who helped me renovate my home. He's kind, patient, and hard-working. He treats my children with love and respect. My daughter Emma calls him her bonus dad. My son Lucas wants to be just like him when he grows up, and my youngest Eleanor said his name before she said mine. And how do you feel about him? He's the best man I've ever known. He showed up when I had nothing and asked for nothing in return. He taught me that not all men are like my ex-husband, that some men build instead of destroy. The judge nodded slowly. Mr. Mitchell, do you have anything to add? Brandon stood. His lawyer tried to stop him, but he pushed past. She poisoned them against me. My own children. She dragged them to the middle of nowhere and turned them against their father. The children who testified in previous hearings that they wanted to stay with their mother. They were coached. By whom? By her. By that man she's marrying. By that whole town of busybodies who decided I was the villain. The judge's expression hardened. Mr. Mitchell, I've read the transcripts of your children's statements. I've reviewed the social worker evaluations. I've seen the evidence of your behavior, the phone records, the text messages, the documented harassment. At no point have I seen any indication that these children were coached. What I have seen is a pattern of a father who uses the court system as a weapon against the mother of his children. Brandon's face went red. I have rights. You have visitation rights, which you have rarely exercised. You have financial obligations, which you have repeatedly tried to reduce. What you do not have is the right to disrupt your children's lives every time you feel slighted or ignored. The judge closed the file. Motion denied. Furthermore, I'm referring this case for review of sanctions against frivolous filings. You may have deep pockets, Mr. Mitchell, but this court's patience is not infinite. Brandon sputtered. You can't? I just did. We're adjourned. Sarah stood frozen as the courtroom emptied. She had won. Again. But this time felt different. Final. Brandon stormed past her toward the exit. At the last moment he stopped and turned. You think you've won? His voice was low, venomous. You think this is over? Marcus stepped between them. It is over. Walk away. Or what? Or I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you are. Every client of yours. Every colleague. Every person you try to impress with your fancy suits and fake charm. Marcus's voice was calm but deadly. I'm not the woman you bullied for 17 years. I'm not afraid of you, and I will destroy your reputation if you ever come near my family again. Brandon stared at him. For the first time, something like fear flickered in his eyes. Then he turned and walked away. Out of the courtroom. Out of their lives. My family. Sarah repeated softly after he was gone. You called us your family. You are my family. You have been since the day I first walked into that broken house and found you refusing to give up. Sarah took his hand. Let's go home. The wedding was held on the 1-year anniversary of Sarah's arrival in Willowbrook. It wasn't planned that way, but when they realized the date, it felt right. A celebration of how far they'd come. The whole town turned out. The historic town hall was filled beyond capacity. People stood along the walls and spilled onto the front steps, everyone wanting to witness the conclusion of the story they'd all become part of. Dorothy served as the official witness despite needing a wheelchair now. Her health had declined steadily over the past few months, but she refused to miss this day. I promised Eleanor I'd see this through, she told Sarah that morning. I intend to keep that promise. Emma was maid of honor. Lucas was best man. And baby Eleanor, now walking confidently, served as the flower girl, toddling down the aisle and throwing petals with more enthusiasm than accuracy. When Sarah appeared in the doorway, the room fell silent. She wore a simple white dress she'd found at a vintage shop in town. On her finger she wore Eleanor Hawkins' ruby ring. In her hands she carried a bouquet of flowers from the garden she'd planted in the spring, the same garden where Eleanor and Margaret had worked together 60 years before. Marcus stood at the altar, tears already streaming down his face. You're beautiful, he mouthed. Sarah smiled. So are you. The ceremony was short and sweet. They had written their own vows, and when Sarah spoke hers, her voice rang clear through the hall. Marcus, when I came to Willowbrook, I thought I was running away from my life. I thought I was hiding. I thought I would never trust again, never love again, never believe in happy endings. You showed me I was wrong about all of it. You showed me that broken things can be healed, that lost people can be found, that love doesn't demand perfection, it just asks for honesty. She squeezed his hands. I promise to be honest with you every day for the rest of my life. I promise to love you even when it's hard. I promise to build with you not just a house, but a family, a legacy, something that will last long after we're gone. You are my home, Marcus Rivera. You always will be. Marcus had to clear his throat twice before he could speak. Sarah, I spent 3 years after my wife died believing I would never feel whole again. Then you showed up with your impossible house and your fierce children, and your stubborn refusal to quit. You didn't just bring that house back to life. You brought me back to life. I promise to spend every day earning the gift of your love. I promise to be a father to your children and a partner in everything we do. I promise to hold you when you're scared and cheer for you when you're brave and love you even when you try to push me away. He smiled through his tears. This house found you, Sarah, and you found me. That's not coincidence. That's fate, and I will never stop being grateful for it. The officiant pronounced them married, and Marcus kissed his bride as the room erupted in cheers. 6 months after the wedding, Dorothy Hawkins passed away peacefully in her sleep. She was 89 years old, and she went with a smile on her face. In her will, she left everything to Sarah: her house on Maple Street, her collection of Eleanor's drawings and photographs, and a final letter to be opened after her death. My dearest Sarah, the letter read, if you're reading this, I've finally gone to join Eleanor and Margaret and all the others who went before. I want you to know how happy you've made me this past year. Watching you transform that house. Watching you build a family. Watching you become the woman Eleanor always knew you could be. You have honored her memory in ways I cannot express. Now I ask one more thing of you. Tell our story. Write the book. Let the world know about the woman who hid letters in walls and the girl who found them decades later. Let Eleanor's story live on. She deserves that. And so do you. With all my love, Dorothy. P.S. Check the basement of my house. There's one more secret waiting for you. Sarah went to Dorothy's house that same day, Marcus and the children in tow. In the basement behind the furnace, exactly where she'd found the first box in her own house, Sarah discovered a final treasure. A trunk filled with Eleanor's original artwork. Dozens of paintings and drawings she'd done throughout her life. Portraits of Catherine at every age. Landscapes of Willowbrook across the decades. And at the bottom, a painting of the house on the day it was built with a young couple standing proudly in front. That's Eleanor and Arthur, Sarah breathed. On their wedding day. Look at the inscription, Emma pointed. In the corner of the painting in Eleanor's elegant script, for the family yet to come. May this house hold your secrets and your love as gently as it held ours. Sarah held the painting against her chest and let herself cry. The book was published the following spring. The House That Found Me, a story of secrets, renovation, and love across generations. Sarah dedicated it to Eleanor, to Catherine, to Margaret, and to Dorothy. To all the women who had loved this house and each other. The book became a bestseller. It was featured on morning shows and book clubs. Sarah received thousands of letters from readers who saw themselves in her story. Divorced mothers starting over. Women escaping bad marriages. Anyone who had ever felt broken beyond repair and discovered they were wrong. A production company optioned it for a film. Sarah insisted that any movie be filmed at the actual house. The studio agreed. On the day the film crew arrived to begin pre-production, Sarah stood on the porch with her family around her. Emma, now 17, had received early acceptance to an art school in New York. She was documenting the film production for her portfolio, her social media following now in the millions. Lucas, 14, was working as an unofficial consultant, explaining the renovation process to anyone who would listen. He had already announced his intention to study architecture. Baby Eleanor, now 2.5, was talking in full sentences and had declared that she wanted to be like Mama when she grew up. And Marcus stood beside Sarah, solid and steady as always, one arm around her waist. "Can you believe this?" Sarah asked him. A movie. About us. About this house. I can believe it. Eleanor planned this from the beginning. You think she knew there'd be a movie? I think she knew that when you hide love in the walls of a house, eventually someone will find it. And when they do, it will change their life. He kissed her temple. She was right. That night, after the production team had left and the children were in bed, Sarah walked through the house one final time. She touched the walls that had once been rotting and were now strong. She climbed the stairs that had nearly eaten her daughter and now held firm. She stood in the nursery where her youngest child slept and remembered the terror of those early days. So much had changed. So much had healed. On her way back to the bedroom, she passed the spot in the kitchen where Marcus had found the second hidden box. She pressed her hand against the wall, feeling the solid plaster beneath her palm. "Thank you," she whispered, "for waiting for me, for knowing I would come." The house creaked softly in response, settling around her like an embrace. She found Marcus in bed, reading one of the letters from fans that had arrived that day. "Listen to this one," he said. "Dear Sarah, I've been in an abusive marriage for 15 years. I was convinced I had no options. Then I read your book. Now I'm saving money to leave. You gave me hope. Thank you." She signed it, still scared but starting to believe. Sarah climbed into bed beside him. "I get one of those every day, sometimes 10. Does it ever overwhelm you? All these people looking to you for hope." "Sometimes. But then I remember that I was her once, scared and trapped and convinced things would never change. If Eleanor's story and mine can help even one person believe in themselves, then every hard thing we went through was worth it." Marcus set down the letter and pulled her close. "You know what I love most about you? My excellent taste in men. Besides that, my cooking. You're a terrible cook." Sarah laughed. "Then what?" "Your hope. After everything you've been through, you still believe in happy endings. You still believe in love. You still believe in people." He kissed her softly. "That's extraordinary, Sarah. That's what makes you extraordinary." She settled against his chest, listening to his heartbeat, feeling the warmth of his arms around her. "I didn't used to believe," she admitted. "When Brandon first told me he wanted a divorce when I found out about the affair, I thought my life was over. I thought I would never trust anyone again. What changed? This house, this town, you." She smiled in the darkness. "Eleanor left secrets in the walls because she believed someone would find them. Dorothy helped us because she believed in keeping promises. The whole town showed up because they believed in community. And you stayed because you believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. I always believed in you. I know, and that's the greatest gift anyone has ever given me." They lay in silence for a while, the house quiet around them. "So," Marcus finally said, "what comes next? Next." "The book is published. The movie is happening. Emma's going to college. Lucas is growing up. Eleanor is already talking about building her own treehouse. What's the next chapter?" Sarah thought about it. A year ago, she had been terrified of the future. Now she couldn't wait to see what it held. "More," she said simply. "More love, more family, more secrets to discover and stories to tell. More of everything that matters." "That sounds perfect." "It does, doesn't it?" Outside, the Vermont wind picked up, rustling through the leaves of the old oak tree where Eleanor had planted roses 60 years before. Inside, the house settled peacefully, its bones strong, its walls full of history and hope. Sarah Mitchell had come to Willowbrook with nothing but a broken heart and 2 frightened children. She had found a crumbling house, a community that embraced her, and a love she never expected. She had discovered secrets hidden in walls and strength hidden in herself. She had learned that broken doesn't mean beyond repair, that lost doesn't mean gone forever, that home isn't just where you live, but who you become when you finally stop running. And as she drifted off to sleep in the house that had waited decades for her to arrive, Sarah understood the truth that Eleanor had known all along. Some things are meant to be found. Some stories are meant to be told. Some families are chosen not by blood, but by the courage to begin again. This house had found her, and she had found exactly where she belonged.